This is going to be your guide to using Iron Leaves in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So we have a brand new Paradox Pokemon. What does it look like? I'm going to say Garchomp with extra steps. So we have 130 attack, 104 speed, very comparable. We're speed creeping it just a little bit, and then we have some weird natural bulk, 90, 88. All right, you're going to be tanking some decent hits, and then 108 on the special defense means we live in against special attacks. But then, this is where I say Garchomp with extra steps, because we don't have the stab 100 base power free move in Earthquake. We do have Psyblade. So Psyblade is going to function like the Hydro Steam on the Walking Wake. It has a base power of 80, but if used on Electric Terrain, the base power is increased to 120, and Electric Terrain means our Quark Drive is going to activate, and our base stats go crazy, so now we need to take a closer look as to how our stats interact, and 104 speed, Jolly Nature means our 130 attack is always going to be higher unless we cut our EV investment significantly. Do you want that for 50% speed? Just a +1 on the speed, but now we don't have the 130 attack anymore. However, if we get our Quark Drive activated in some kind of way, then we're also getting the free Life Orb power on that 130 attack, which is going to be a lot of damage, especially if we have 120 activating. Now, I have Booster Energy here because I don't think it's going to be like Walking Wake. For Walking Wake, my recommendation is that you just bring Sunny Day on your team. If that's an Eject Pack Torkoal, cool, do it. If that's Light Screen, Reflect, Sunny Day, Klefki, do it. I don't believe in setting up Electric Terrain as much. I've been seeing a lot of people say like, oh, I got this Pincurchin strat. I don't believe in that. I ain't a believer. So I think we're just kind of like, okay, you come in, you activate the Quark Drive, Booster Energy, cool. But then Psyblade isn't getting the bonus effect. And then that means we have an 80 base power move that doesn't do anything else. Leaf Blade is nice though. We have 90 base power, so getting in a bit of a higher end, and that's also going to get Stab. Sacred Sword, well, we don't have Fighting anymore, so that's a thing. And then Mega Horn, 120 base power, coverage, because find it, hit something, that's going to feel pretty nice, especially Dark type into Psychic. And that's also where things get really ugly on this Pokemon. Grass Psychic, the worst typing in the game. That's a lot of weaknesses. Ice, Dark, Fire, Ghost, Bug, Poison, Flying. All fairly common except for the Bug, but if you get tagged by it, that's going to be lights out. Doesn't matter how tanky you are. We have some resistances, but those never really matter on the infamous Grass Psychic typing. And that also means our stats are going to feel not like this. We're just eating a lot of super effective hits, and that's going to find KOs at this range. So that's kind of rough. So what else does Iron Leaves get for utility? We have Calm Mind, we have Iron Defense, we have Swords Dance, we have Taunt. So I think Taunt Pokemon or Encore or Anti-Tank strategies, they're super prevalent in Generation 9 because bulky meta, fissure meta, tank setup meta has been pretty prevalent for even longer than this generation. Pokemon Sword and Shield started getting very setup tank heavy, and then we saw a lot of anti-tanking as well. So there's just better taunt Pokemon that do cheekier things to harder shut down those Pokemon. I don't think that's it. Swords Dance into setup also feels really weird on like Photosynthesis or Quark Drive Pokemon because they should be getting the stats from this and then kind of boosting and snowballing that way. 130 attack, Swords Dance, just run Garchomp. The 2 speed literally doesn't matter. Just run Garchomp if we're going to be Swords Dancing on this, especially because of the weaknesses. Iron Defense, Calm Mind, that's kind of like a bread and butter thing. But then what? Chesto, Resto, crap move because you're Grass Psychic? Alright, so setting up on this Pokemon feels awkward and is made even more awkward. As for Terra types, I guess you go Terra Grass, get more damage. Terra Psychic, get more damage, but still doesn't feel great going into those typings and then going into like a triple stab. This is your Terastallization. There's better Pokemon to use than a 104, 130. Now, the weird thing about Paradox Pokemon is that competitively, they're not really bringing their own terrain or setting their own sun to then get the ability to activate and pop off. It's either Booster Energy or a choice item just going off of the crazy stats and then forsaking the ability altogether. And the weird thing is, if you set your own terrain or bring your own sun, then the opponent's Paradox Pokemon can make use of that, and that could also get pretty weird. Now, my thought with Iron Leaves is maybe it's the best Paradox Pokemon for activating its own ability because the stats are pretty good. Like, we go Electric Terrain, and then that means we're going to be getting more damage on our Psyblade, so that's kind of like a stat boost in its own, and we're also going to get the free activation here of Quark Drive without using Boost Energy, so we still get an item, we have 30% more damage, and then a pretty solid speed tier. And if we go into damage calculations, yeah, that's pretty nice. I said I'm going to use Iron Valiant as a damage analog a bit more, because like 74-90 against a physical attacker, that's kind of common. You're generally going to find squishier Pokemon. So if you're one-shotting this, you're going to be doing pretty good. Psycho Cut is super effective because of the fighting, but if we get rid of that... So yeah, that's a pretty high chance to KO. Ignore the Life Orb, we're just using this as like the Quark Drive activation for 30% more damage. And now we're also going to be like kind of showing that as our Psyblade for the bonus damage since Electric Terrain is active. Cool. Like, it's got a thing. And then Leaf Blade has some damage. Close Combat is weird because Leaf Blade Stab is just going to be more damage. So we have the damage, but the moveset kind of has an identity crisis. Now we do have the Wild Charge, so that's going to be getting 30% more damage with the Electric Terrain, but then we're recoiling ourselves, and we're also using a turn of potentially setting up, and we have a lot of weaknesses. And at first I was thinking, oh man, Focus Sash sounds pretty bad because we have this natural bulk. So if we're just going to survive almost every hit anyways, then the Focus Sash seems useless. But if we're also facing a lot of super effective hits, then maybe the Focus Sash for reliability, Electric Terrain. But then, like, okay, we just gave up a Focus Sash for some setup that gives us some damage. We can't Wild Charge after that. Going Terra Electric also kind of feels weird because maybe we need the Terra Grass for some kind of, like, coverage, boost damage, or maybe just making sure Psyblade one-shots every possible neutral setup for the Psychic Terra. It's ugly. I don't know. I feel like there might have been something here to kind of try out, but I don't think like setting your own terrain really works. I was also thinking about some troll stuff like Muscle Band because as you can see our damage is actually pretty good and gets there, so just 10% flat with some coverage also sounds really nice. As for that coverage, yeah, the Close Combat because after setting up terrain, doesn't matter if you're -1 anyways, you just need to get the damage down. Mega Horn, the low accuracy, but also fishing for 120 base power. Then there's like some other coverage things you can do, but they don't feel that great. So yeah, just have damage, do this, maybe it works, maybe you just get one shot because you're weak to everything, I don't know. And then there's like one other last idea. Iron Leaves gets Trailblaze. So we can use Trailblaze, quote unquote, safely behind our bulk, then just turn that into an outspeed on everything, including Scarf Chomp, and yeah, anything that's like speed boosting above 104 starts getting pretty rare, and then we also get our booster energy not draining us Life Orb damage that can then do some serious damage, but now we're kind of forsaking our Psyblade, and we don't get Psycho Cut, so it's like we don't have Stab. And in a way, you also just don't want to be Grass Psychic, so like now you have to get really creative. Is this griefing? I feel like this is griefing if you go Terra Fighting into the Close Combat. Just having Grass Fighting coverage feels wrong. But again, we don't have like a lot of other good coverage options, especially because we're going Terra into a move we know instead of the Terra Blast. But it's kind of the best way of getting something out of this Pokemon. Night Slash is low power. But I guess hitting a Ghost-type Pokemon or a Psychic-type Pokemon super effective is going to be pretty nice, so you have that. Maybe just Taunt or Sub. Taunt or Sub, that way you can actually get away with something. Ideally, if the opponent's setting up, and then you sub into them, and then it actually like goes against their setup pretty significantly, then you can like just Close Combat them if they're already a tank, or Trailblaze on them, and then Close Combat for, you know, a KO combo, because you still have the booster energy 30%. That Trailblaze is going to hurt. That Trailblaze is going to hurt, so Trailblaze Close Combat, that's KO. If you still have sub up, then you kind of win. Or you can just also Taunt, Trailblaze on the Force Switch, now outspeed the sweeper they just brought in, Close Combat, taps them, and then you win. So yeah, this could also maybe be the play. Iron Leaves is kind of rough, but I think it's one of the more clean Pokemon for like getting 30% bonus damage into a close combat while having some speed. You know, another Pokemon attempting this and then like having a Life Orb is going to be more frail and is not going to want the Life Orb burn on top of it. So this could be it, or this could be it, but I think that's kind of it for the Iron Leaves. I just think Walking Wake is way better and has like a lot more cool stuff you can do with it, because it dabs into a really awesome archetype that hasn't existed in Pokemon. It's a water-type Pokemon that wants to succeed under Sun. That's really cool. Check out my guide on that if you haven't. On that, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.